body, mind, and spirit during this time and beyond. In addition to us having physical wellness, we also are looking at other areas of wellness, including financial wellness. And so we have partnered with one of our other areas, our entrepreneurship and Black Business 365 committee, where we're not only encouraging people to be healthy, but to support the businesses that we are promoting through our presentations. And so tonight is no different. My sorority sister, Erin Reed, will introduce you to our first guest. And we are so pleased to have her and to be able to do this because it's a target from our international president, Glenda Glover, and under the direction of our local program chairman, Marilyn B. Rudolph, and our chapter president, Carlin Robinson. And so we welcome you again. Erin, go right ahead.
Good evening, everyone. We are so glad to have with us this evening Alicia Skillman. She's an attorney for the city of Detroit, but she is what I call a gardening connoisseur. And so she will be providing you all with insights on starting your gardens right at home so that we can be empowered with controlling our food sources and the things that we partake of each day. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Alicia, and we look forward to hearing her insights.
Thank you. Thank you, Soror. Hi, world. Hey, Detroit. Hey, Facebook. Thank you for being here with me today. I'm going to talk today a little bit about gardening. Oh, and shout out to the best sorority in the world, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I am here to show you some tidbits about gardening. And gardening is easy. And I think it's something that we need, that we require in times like this. A few things that gardening has done for me, it helps me get to know my neighbors. Now, I know all of us are talking more to our neighbors, but what if you had a bag of tomatoes with you, a bag of string beans? What if you had a cluster of collard greens to give to your neighbor? I know that was for you some points down the street, especially with the mamas and the dads who are doing the cooking. So let us begin. It's a little chilly today here in Detroit. I hope for a warmer day, a sunnier day, but it's springtime. It's the first week in May, and that's an important time regarding gardening. It's a time when you can put spring plants in the ground. Me, I started some in the house. What I have here are turnips that I've started. I started them on April 22nd. These are snap peas. Started them the same day. They are two different types of plants. The turnips are a little bit more delicate when they begin. The snap peas are very big when they begin. Still, they're both seeds, and you have to be careful with how you treat seeds. Now I want to show you some seeds. These are the snap pea seeds. See how big they are? They're a little hard, not as delicate as the seeds to the turnips. These are very fine, very small. They almost look like pepper. I don't know if you can even see them on the screen. But it's important that you treat your seeds delicately. And where you get your seeds, I get my seeds from all over. And I have a variety of different kinds. Wheatgrass, a mix, basil, summer squash, even cosmos. Now, some of us like to plant vegetables, some of us like to plant flowers. What's important is, what do you like? And it's easier to start plants that are vegetables. For some reason, Vegetables are an easier plant to take care of. And I think they give back a little bit more than flowers. Here, I've planted radishes. I love radishes. They're very healthy. So we've talked about seeds. We've talked about it being cool and cold. Something we need to discuss is soil. Now there's a difference between soil and dirt. Dirt is a little dry. See, it's crumbly. It's dusty. It can blow away. Soil is more compact. It's nutritious. It looks healthy, and we want to plant in soil. So make sure you have soil. So you need sun, you need seeds, you need good soil. What else do you need? Water. Your water source is important. And when you're watering seeds, it's really important not to drown them. So I use this bottle. Some people use a spray bottle because only a drop of water comes out at a time. And when plants are small and delicate like this, you just need a little bit of water. My rule of thumb is when I'm watering a plant, I want to water its roots. And when plants are tiny like this, their roots are still very small. So you just need a little bit of water added to them. Even when they get a little larger, I still use a bottle like this. It takes a little bit more water, but my goal is to water the plant while making sure I'm not drowning the plant. So we've talked about the temperature, the sun, soil, dirt, seeds, and the different types of seeds that you need. And so all you need to do to plant is just like I said. You take your seed, you put it in. I use a seed container with 4. They come in 6. See the 6 sections there. I put 1 pea seed in each of these. If I were demonstrating with turnips, I'd put more because those plants are smaller. So you take your seeds, put them in the container, cover them with dirt. And every seed package gives you instructions on how much soil to place on top of the seed. Some require a 1/2 inch. Some barely need to be covered because they want to get to the sun really quickly. So once you get your seeds in, you cover them with soil and then you water them. Now, being a gardener, it can be a small investment. And when I say investment, I just mean your time, because seeds are really inexpensive. This might cost $1.50, $3 for a pack of seeds. And they last a long time. I'm using seed packets from last year and this year. So a small investment, but also an investment in time. You got to make sure you water your plants. You got to make sure you water the seeds. You got to check on them. When you have them in the house, make sure they're sitting in a nice sunny spot. And make sure it's a good sunny spot. It might take a minute to adjust when plants are small, like the turnip plants. They may not be able to take full on sun. It might require you checking it twice, looking to see if the sun is too much. Hey, Mr. Squirrel, if the sun is too much for your plants, okay? Now, Once your plants get larger, you're going to need to water them more. You're going to need to give them more water. For example, these celery plants. When they get this size, you're going to start taking them outside so that you can plant them in the ground. You take them outside a little bit longer every single day, and eventually you'll be able to place the plants in the ground. When you're ready to plant outside, make sure you start studying your yard and figure out where you want your garden to be. You want it in a nice sunny spot, in a place that gets sun many hours of the day. I have my garden sitting right in front of us. It might be 12 by 12, but it gets lots of sun all day long. It gets morning sun, it gets evening sun. Once you decide where your location of your garden is going to be, make sure you have a water source nearby. Make sure the location is getting lots of sun, and make sure your plants get lots of water. Tools, let's talk about tools. You're going to need a simple shovel. Now, when you're starting out, you could use a small tablespoon, teaspoon. Once you get out into the yard, once you start placing plants into pots, you want something a little bigger. This is one of my shovels, and this is a tool I use to break dirt, to break roots, and it helps me outside in the garden. You might also decide to plant in a pot, whether it's a small pot like this or one of the larger ones. It's just based upon your preference. Larger pots can yield you more plants. You might want to put a tomato plant in there. You can get lots of tomatoes from plants that are in a pot. You can also put peppers in a pot. There's so much variety to gardening. And the other thing, it's really therapeutic. It soothes the mind. And once your vegetables start growing, it feeds your tummy very well. I get excited about gardening because it creates friendships for me. It creates partnerships for me. It creates, I know children on the block just because I'm gardening. They come down and ask me, are the tomatoes ready? They come down and ask me, are the greens ready? They know the names of vegetables now just from talking to me. And I think that's a way we can begin to build community. I'm glad you tuned in today to watch me discuss gardening. If you have any questions, reach me on Facebook, Alicia Skillman on Facebook. And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Alicia, for your insights on gardening. And I hope that you all thoroughly enjoyed the information and will take the information that she shared and put that to good use. This is a good time to start your own gardening, even though it's a little chilly today, but it's a great way to take back control of your diet. And so now we have with us Brother Malik Yakini. He is an activist and educator who is committed to freedom and justice for African people in particular and humanity in general. He is the founder and executive director of the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, which operates a 4-acre farm in Detroit and spearheaded efforts to establish the Detroit Food Policy Council, which he chairs. He served as a member of the Michigan Food Policy Council from 2008 to 2010. He serves on the facilitation team of Undoing Racism in the Detroit food system. And from 1990 to 2011, he served as executive director of the Inseroma Institute Public School Academy, one of Detroit's leading African-centered schools. In 2016, 2006, he was honored as Administrator of the Year by the Michigan Association of Public School Academies, and he has served as a member of the Board of Directors of Timbuktu Academy of Science and Technology since 2004. He is CEO of Black Star Educational Management. Malik is dedicated to working to identify and alleviate the impact of racism and white privilege on the food system. He has an intense interest in contributing to the development of an international food sovereignty movement that embraces Black farmers in the Americas, the Caribbean, and Africa. And without further ado, I will present to you Brother Malik Yakini.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, to be with you. And thank you to the sister who presented before me on some of the basics of gardening, which is really, really important. And as she pointed out, you can do it in your backyard, you can do it in a small space, you can do it in pots, you can do it in on a balcony. I want to talk to you in the time that I have about the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, the organization that I serve as executive director of. I just want to correct a few things in the bio that the sister just read. Actually, that's an old bio, and some of those things are no longer accurate. I'm no longer on the Detroit Food Policy Council. I'm no longer on the steering committee of undoing racism in the Detroit food system. But I do still serve as executive director of the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network. So DBCFSN is an organization that started in 2006. And we started primarily because at that time we looked around our community, and most of the people who were leading work around urban agriculture or around what we call food security or food justice were well-meaning white nonprofit organizations. Our organization has a very deep-seated belief that Black people should be leading ourselves. We're not against anybody else, we don't hate anybody else, but we think in our community, we should provide leadership for ourselves, and our children need to see us in leadership positions. So we started the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, both so that African Americans in Detroit could participate in the food movement, but also because we're in the vast majority of the population, that we could be in the leadership of that movement and help define how it evolves. So since that time, we've done several things. One of the first things we did in 2006, we met with the Detroit City Council, and we were appointed to create a food security policy for the city of Detroit. We worked for about 18 months creating a policy that we were able to get passed unanimously by the Detroit City Council, and it's still, with some modifications that have been made since that time, still the official food policy of the city. One of the most important things about that policy that we created was that it called for the creation of the Detroit Food Policy Council, which we stewarded into existence and which still exists and has its own board now, its own funding sources, its own office, so on and so forth. The Detroit Food Policy Council serves as an advisory body to the mayor and the city council on matters related to food, but also serves as an umbrella to bring together people who are doing food system work, be they farmers, gardeners, people who are doing work in schools related to food, people who are involved in the retail sale of food, people who are chefs, and other folks who are involved in various aspects of what we call the food system. In addition to that, we understood that urban farming was very important. And as I said earlier, while backyard gardens and side lot gardens and container gardens are extremely important, and we would really encourage people to do that, to start off with something small and manageable for your own family. We also had a vision that was more community encompassing. And we're concerned about the amount of food that we can produce to begin to feed ourselves on a community-wide level. And so in 2006, we created a farm, which eventually evolved into what we now call D-Town Farm, which is the largest farm in the city of Detroit. So we currently operate D-Town Farm in Rouge Park, and we have a 7-acre plot or 7-acre area that we farm inside of Rouge Park. We have a license agreement with the city of Detroit that allows us to do that. And we grow more than 36 different crops each year. So we're really trying to kind of up the amount of produce that can be grown in an urban area, and to model and demonstrate both how we can practice self-reliance and self-sufficiency, but also to show how the tremendous amount of unused and underutilized land in the city of Detroit can be put to productive use. So we do several things at D-Town Farm. In addition to growing 36 different crops, and I'll just name some of those crops, we grow almost everything that you can think about that you can buy in a grocery store that can grow in this climate. So Sister just talked about turnips, and we grow those. And many of you know that both the root, the bulb of the turnip plant is edible, and also the turnip greens are edible. We grow collard greens, which of course are an all-time favorite in the Black community. We grow mustard greens. And many people like myself grew up eating turnips and mustards mixed together. Lots of people like to do that. We grow kale, which as a child I never ate, but now is my absolute favorite vegetable. So we grow two varieties of kale, the curly leaf kale that many people are familiar with, and we also grow lacinato kale, or what sometimes is called dinosaur kale. We grow other root vegetables, such as radishes, which my sister just mentioned. And radishes are really a great thing to grow for beginners because they grow in about 3 weeks. So if you're working with children, for example, and you want to give them an experience where they can see that seed actually come to maturation in a short period of time, radishes are a great thing to grow. We also grow carrots, we grow beets, and all of those things, again, are root crops that grow under the ground. We also grow things like cucumbers and yellow squash and zucchini. We grow green beans, we grow watermelons, we grow okra, both red and green okra. We grow watermelons. We grow all kinds of salad greens like mixed spring mix. We grow arugula. We grow spinach, and many other crops. We have berries at the farm. We have blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. And so we grow many different things that people purchase from us, both at our farm on Saturday and Sunday mornings and at the farmers markets that we sell at, which include the Wayne State University Farmers Market, which happens on Wednesdays between June and October, and also at the Livernois 6 Mile Market, which happens every other Saturday between June and October. Now, the thing is, we're in a very unusual time because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we're unsure if those farmers markets are going to open. And we're also strategizing on how at our farm we can get produce to people in a way that is safe for both the consumer and safe for our staff. So right now we're working to develop an online ordering system, and we'll probably have curbside pickup so that people can order their food in advance, pay for it electronically, and then come and pick it up in front of our farm so that nobody is exposed unnecessarily to potential risk. But in addition to the crops that we grow at D-Town Farm, we also do large-scale composting. One of the most important things about agriculture is soil, as my sister just said. In fact, some of my farmer friends say that we're not really growing crops, we're really growing the soil. That's the most important thing. If you have nutrient-dense soil, then you're going to have nutrient-dense vegetables. And so one of the ways that we ensure that we have fertile, nutrient-dense soil is by producing compost that we then add to our soil. Compost is basically something that is produced by adding two elements together. We add what we call browns, which are things that are high in carbon, such as wood chips or newspaper or paper bags or toilet paper rolls. And we add to that things that are high in nitrogen, or things that we call greens, such as food waste, such as apple cores or banana peels, or even coffee grounds, things that you can easily find in your kitchen. And so we put those together, in our case, in very large piles. They might be 6 feet high and 20 or 30 feet long. And then we turn those piles with our tractor periodically, keep the pile moistened. And after about 7 months, we have this finished compost. In fact, the finished compost is sometimes called humus, which is not to be mistaken with hummus. Hummus is very tasty. Humus is not very tasty, I don't suppose. And so we add that to our soil, and it adds nutrients to the soil to ensure that we have very fertile soil and that we have nutrient-dense fruits and vegetables that we're growing. We also model rainwater retention. We have a rainwater retention pond at our farm that holds about 50,000 gallons of rainwater. And via a solar pump, we pump it into two above ground tanks that each hold about 2,400 gallons of water. And we're able to store the water in the tanks. And through gravity, we're able to feed that down through our fields to water our crops. We also have 4 what's called hoop houses, or sometimes they're called passive solar greenhouses. And these are structures that are made with metal hoops that have plastic stretched over them. And so what we're able to do is inside of those, capture the radiant heat from the sun, and we're able to extend the growing season. And so in our hoop houses, we're able to start planting earlier than we can plant outside. So typically we start planting in March in our hoop houses, where you can't really start planting outside in Michigan, usually until April, or sometimes some people even wait till May. In fact, most of the old folks that I've talked to from the South say, wait till after Memorial Day. So, and that's fine if you're a home gardener, but if you're doing it on a commercial level and you're concerned about kind of getting a head start and producing as much as you can, then that extra month or that extra 6 weeks at the beginning of the season lets you increase your crop yield. We also use the hoop houses for extending the season at the back end. So most crops in Michigan, after about October or so, the weather doesn't allow you to continue growing them. Some things can grow. Collard greens and kale, for example, can continue to grow into November or December. But most crops, after about October, they begin to die out. So with the hoop houses in the fall, we're also able to extend the growing season for some crops so that we get more yield on the back end as well. And then during the summer, we grow crops in the hoop houses that like lots of heat, such as beans and tomatoes. So, and it's important to know there's some crops that like cooler temperatures, and we call those cool weather crops. And there's other crops that like lots and lots of heat. We call those hot weather crops. And so you plant different crops at different types of times of the year. Cool weather crops usually are planted in the spring and the fall. Hot weather crops are planted so that they come to maturation in the summer. So in addition to growing 36 crops, having a composting operation, doing rainwater retention, we also have a solar energy station on our farm where we're producing about 8 kilowatts of electricity using 10 solar panels that are mounted on top of a shipping container. And we're totally off the grid at our farm. That's the only source of electricity that we have. We also have a children's area at the farm because our farm is not just a production farm, but it's also a public space where people come and can gather in nature and reconnect with nature. Really, one of the purposes of our organization is to help Black people reconnect with nature. Most of our time in this society, we spend inside of buildings or inside of automobiles. We find ourselves very much connected from the natural, disconnected from the natural world. And so the farm is a place where people can come who want to volunteer and help and learn to do farming, but they also can come if they just want to come and chill out and be in nature and experience the fresh air and the sunshine. So we have a children's area at the farm where we have various activities for children. For example, every August we have a Children's Day, which has a number of farm-related activities. We have a huge harvest festival every September, which is both for children and families. And we have other activities for children throughout the year. So again, this is a very unusual year because of the COVID crisis. Normally, our farm is open on Saturdays and Sundays to volunteers. We may have 20 or so volunteers that come out on a Saturday morning. But because of the risk of people gathering in numbers, we have eliminated, at least for the time period, volunteers at our farm. I'm hoping that within the next few weeks, our board of directors approves a revised policy which allows small numbers of volunteers to come out as long as they're practicing social distancing, or actually what we call physical distancing with social solidarity, wearing masks and gloves, using disinfectant on tools, and taking other precautions so that we minimize the risk of COVID-19 spreading. So that's kind of the basics on D-Town Farm, but we have other things that we're involved in also. One of those is a youth program called the Food Warriors Youth Development Program, which is for young people between the ages of 7 and 12. And this program operates at 2 locations in the city of Detroit. At the Barack Obama Leadership Academy on the east side of Detroit on Canfield near French Road. And that is an after-school program on Tuesdays and Thursdays only for students who enroll in that school. Of course, because schools are now closed, that program has been canceled for the rest of the school year, but we're hopeful to resume that program in the fall if schools open back up as scheduled. The second location is at a church on the west side, the Shrine of the Black Madonna, which is on Linwood at Hogarth. And that program is open to any young people in the community who meet the age requirements. But again, because of concerns about the current pandemic, that program is now on hold. We're hoping to be able to resume that later in the summer or perhaps in the fall. The other thing, in addition to the farm, D-Town Farm, and the Food Warriors Youth Development Program that we do, is we're building a grocery store, a cooperative grocery store called the Detroit People's Food Co-op. And not only are we developing the grocery store, but we're building the building that the store is going to be located in. The building that we're building will be on the southeast corner of Woodward and Euclid, and the building itself is called the Detroit Food Commons. It will be a 2-story, 34,000 square foot building, the entire first floor of which will be occupied by the Detroit People's Food Co-op. On the second floor, we'll have 4 incubator kitchens that food entrepreneurs can lease out to prepare food in a licensed environment if they're either caterers or if they're interested in preparing value-added products to put in retail locations. And then we're also moving the offices of our organization onto the second floor of the building. So let me say a few words about grocery stores and food co-ops and why we think this is important. So in Detroit, there are no national grocery stores except for Whole Foods. There is one regional grocer, Myers, which has 2 locations, one at the former Redford High School site on Grand River at 6 Mile, and a site on the State Fairgrounds, what used to be the State Fairgrounds, on Woodward and 8 Mile. And so those are regional grocers, and they're both very good stores, but there are no national grocers still in the city of Detroit. When I was growing up, in the city in the 1960s, we had at least 6 or 7 national chain grocers, all of which had multiple locations throughout the city, such as Farmer Jack, Kroger, A&P, Chatham, and several others. So that almost no matter where you were within the city of Detroit, you were within walking distance of a full-service grocery store. That situation has changed. It has a lot to do with white flight. It has a lot to do with the changing demographics as people abandoned the city of Detroit and moved into the suburbs surrounding Detroit. Grocery stores followed that population density, and they followed what they thought was greater income, so that we see a proliferation of grocery stores in the suburbs surrounding Detroit, but we don't see those national chains in the city of Detroit. Now, in all fairness, we have about 70 or 80 grocery stores in the city of Detroit that are independently owned, most of which are owned by an ethnic group called Chaldeans from Iraq. Now, let me be clear, I'm not anti-Chaldean, so I don't want you to mistake my comments. But what I am anti, and what our organization is opposed to, is an extractive economy. And that is an economy where we have a city that is 80% African-American, but we have no African-American owned grocery stores. And so we have other ethnic groups that come into our community, start these grocery stores, extract the profits from the stores, and often only hire their own families and relatives, so that we're not getting any economic benefit from the stores in our community. We're not seeing the creation of many jobs. And also, in far too many cases, we find disrespect on the part of store owners and store employees towards the people they're serving. Now, again, I want to be clear. I don't want to overgeneralize, because I'm not saying that all Chaldeans are disrespectful to the people they serve, and I'm not saying that all stores served by, run by Chaldeans are poor stores, because that's certainly not the case. But we find that far too many are. And especially in the smaller stores, what we call in Detroit party stores, we find a high level of disrespect. In fact, I see often when going into these smaller stores, which many people in Detroit have to go to, because if you don't have an automobile, which about 40% of Detroiters don't have autos, then you end up going to stores that are within walking distance, which often means you're going to a party store or a gas station. And so all too often in those stores, we have what I call wordless transactions. You make your purchase, You put your items in the turnstile, they ring it up, you see the amount on the cash register, you stick your money through the slot, they give you your change, they turn it around, you get your items. And often there's no thank you, we appreciate your business, come again, none of that. It's almost as if they expect that we're obligated to spend our money in those stores. And so that's totally unacceptable. And so in addition to there being a healthy food aspect to starting the Detroit People's Food Co-op, that is that we're concerned about making sure that our community has access to high quality, nutrient dense, fresh produce and other high quality foods. We're also concerned about the economic aspect. We're concerned about creating vehicles so that we can create a cash flow within our own communities, where instead of the money being extracted from our communities, we can spend money in our communities so that it circulates, it creates jobs, it creates community empowerment, and it creates overall a sense of community wellness. So we would ask that people join with us in these efforts, and I'll give the information on how you can contact us. If you're interested in the work of the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network in general, you can contact us via our website, which is www.dbcfsn. Again, that's www.dbcfsn.org. If you're interested specifically in the Detroit People's Food Co-op, you can go to the website for that organization, which is www.detroitpeoplesfoodcoop.com. I think it may be .org. Forgive me, my memory is fading a bit. But www.detroitpeoplesfoodcoop, and you'll find that. So a co-op is a business which is owned by multiple people. So in the case of the Detroit People's Food Co-op, it's what's called a consumer co-op. That is, the people who shop at the co-op can actually become what we call member owners. We currently have 482 member owners. We're trying to get to 1,000 before we open the doors. And member owners pay $200, which is a one-time lifetime fee that can be paid either in one lump sum, or you can pay it in 10 installment payments via our website. So we are recruiting new member owners. We would encourage people to join. And the benefits of member ownership are multiple. The first thing is that you get to either run for or vote for other people for the board of directors, which is the body legally responsible for running the Detroit People's Food Co-op. The second benefit is that there will be periodic at the register discounts for member owners. And the third benefit is that at the end of the year, any year that the store is profitable, the member owners can vote themselves a portion of the profit. It's not like being a member of Sam's Club where you just pay a fee and that gives you the opportunity to shop at the store. You are actually an owner of the Detroit People's Food Co-op when you become a member owner, and you can actually benefit from the profits that are generated from that store. So if people would like more information, again, you can go to those websites. We would encourage you to reach out to us to become involved. We're hoping that as the COVID-19 pandemic begins to decline more, that we're able to open up our farming operation more, we're able to get our youth program started more, and we're able to have more public events to recruit member owners for the Detroit People's Food Co-op. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brother Yakini, for the wealth of information that you shared with us. That was excellent. And also, Alicia Skillman, for the gardening tips that you've given us. Again, that I hope that our audience have been able to take this wealth of information and put it to good use, not just in their homes, but in their neighborhoods and in their communities at large. And so I'm going to turn it over to our chairman of our Nutritional and Wellness Committee, Rhonda J. Smith.
Well, I echo everything that Aaron has said. We are so excited for the two guests that we had today, giving us some really practical information to be able to help ourselves nutritionally and to think about our community health, not just our physical health, but our financial health and how we are to support one another. If you did not get the websites that Brother Yakini shared, I did post them on the Facebook feed, so they are there. You all should know that the Nutrition and Wellness Committee of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated Alpha Omega chapter has been hosting a drive for people to join as members for the Detroit People's Food Co-op in any way to be able to support the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network. And so we encourage you to do that, particularly women of Alpha Kappa Alpha. You know, our target 3 is entrepreneurship and the Black dollar 365. So we're not just promoting that during February and Black History Month, but every time of the year. And so we will keep you posted as the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network works out how we are able to support them with the garden products during this COVID state. Brother Yakini had mentioned to me a few weeks ago when we talked that the network is working out even a seed giveaway. And actually, Brother Yakini, you are on right now. Do you all have any details regarding that?
We are still finalizing that, but I can say 2 things. One, we have several seeds that we are giving away in the next 2 weeks or so. And you can follow us on our Facebook page, Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, for the dates of that. Some of those seeds are seeds that we have purchased and that were extras, and some are seeds that we have saved from the crops that we've grown. But in addition to that, we're producing a series of 5 videos for beginning gardeners, kind of some of the beginning tips, similar to what the sister presented to us today, so that people who are starting from scratch will feel like they have a resource that kind of walks them through that process. And again, if you follow us on our Facebook page, you can get the details on how those videos will be released. They'll be on Facebook, they'll be on YouTube and other platforms, but we would encourage people to lock in to both of those things with us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for adding that. And finally, we want to say, as we finish up this particular segment, we have 3 more segments coming up on Monday, the next 3 Mondays. And the next 2 Mondays, we are looking at mental and emotional health. And as you all know, or many of you may not know, the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated is an international organization with more than 300,000 members worldwide. That's thus international. And so we have a lot of women who have various areas of expertise, including mental health. And so we are going to begin that talk on next week. We recognize that that is something that we're all dealing with now, a very grievous time that we're all in, and just trying to be able to process our feelings. And so we're going to spend the next 2 weeks on mental and emotional health. So we just encourage you to join us again next week at the Alpha Omega chapter Facebook page. We will be live at 6 p.m. Again, thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you with hope next week. God bless you.